Welcome to the live edition of the IntraCultural podcast, brought to you from the American Anthropological Association annual meetings in New Orleans, Louisiana. How are you both doing today?
What's your name?
My name is Missy.
Oh, I'm Lucy.
And I'm Alex. And we have been going nonstop for the past few days. It has been a whirlwind of wonderful, geeky anthropology things. And that's what we're here to talk to you
So
today
technically,
about.
you had 2 days, we had 3.
Well, excuse me.
Yeah, our first workshops were on Wednesday. We had 2 almost back-to-back workshops. And then Thursday, we had another workshop. And then Missy gave a paper. And then yesterday, we had Career Expo Day, which was really busy. I think we were the busiest table of the entire expo, but it was great.
Yeah.
Oh, and the round table.
Yeah, and I think what the Career Expo and the Roundtable kind of showed us is that um, people, anthropologists, really do care about DEI. They are appalled by what has been happening, all of the restrictions and legislations, executive orders that have been placed, curtailing or kind of lessening the influence of DEI. And anthropologists want to know what they can do to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the panels do have been, and even if they don't have DEI in the title, they've been addressing DEI or at least its impacts in some of the kinds of work they're doing, and not just thinking of it even in terms of the United States, but I've been in a few panels where they're talking about international impacts through USAID and the eradication of USAID also under that kind of umbrella of anti-DEI. And I think now is the time to get more anthropologists involved so that they have kind of a more an outlet for some of the upset and anger and that they're feeling right now.
Yeah. But we didn't tell you the real reason we were here this year, and it's because we got an award. So we are celebrated. We're receiving the Executive Directors Award for our contribution to anthropology, and we are having our ceremony tonight.
Going back to the role of anthropology and DEI and vice versa, I want to ask both of y'all to kind of talk a little bit about how there's been some controversies or some anthropologists who offer critiques of DEI but don't offer any solutions. Is that territory that we feel comfortable wading into right now?
Oh, yeah.
Always.
Okay.
Anthropology, as a sociocultural anthropologist, one of the big changes that happened in the 1980s was that there was a big turn towards critique as a response to other kinds of theory that weren't critiquing enough. So now I think we're in an interesting impasse again, where a lot of people don't just want to critique, they want to be able to solve problems. So that's been a big theme that I see keep coming up in session after session, at least the ones that I've been on. What do you think?
So I would agree that there is a move towards, actually intervention in terms of practice. Obviously, a lot of people are really upset about what's happening right now, and they're looking for solutions. But I think that there's still this tendency towards theory and this tendency towards critique as part of theory that dominates or has dominated the field in the past, and that's going to be something that we really need to continue to address. It's not that theory and critique isn't necessary, but it needs to have an outcome and an outlet. And otherwise, it's just going to be like screaming into the dark right now. The other thing I would say is I think that I saw this happen in 2016 as well, where a lot of people wanted to suddenly study politics in the United States and put kind of anthropological lens on what's happening in the United States. And while I think that's good, I hope that it happens again with DEI in an informed way, where the folks that have been doing the work on politics and the work on DEI, and like that it's done with respect to the people that have been doing the work, the practitioners and the ancestors in both the field and fields beyond this field, to make sure that we're doing it in a way that is useful and respectful.
I think that's a really important thing to think about, especially for anthropologists who lean more towards the theory and critique aspect of this work, is that this work is much deeper than oftentimes their theory and critique kind of make it out to be. I consider this work, like you said, Missy, to be very ancestral. It has its roots not in the 2010s. It has its roots going way back further than that. And it is something that is part of a multi-generational struggle for equity. And at the end of the day, it is about the pursuit of multiculturalism, the pursuit of pluralism. And when we're talking about the role of anthropology and what it can offer, like you said, yes, critique and theory is great, but what are we actually building towards? How do we want to be a part of the future, not just critiques of the future?
I also think it's important to know that you can do both, right? You can do theory and you can do practice. Like those two things are not counterintuitive and they're not counterproductive. I think that question got posed at one of the panels I was in, which was like we used to critique DEI and now we're defending DEI. How do we make sense of that? And the answer is really simple. Like you just do both. You do both. It doesn't have to be an existential crisis to your identity. It can just be something that you do as opposed to something that you are. And I think that's a really important part for a lot of academics to understand, to be able to think of themselves as allies. And that means that there's contradictions all the time and it's not going to be easy and you can wear different hats. We already wear different hats depending on our roles. And so we can do the theory, right? Like I wrote an article that was like, yes, this is reproducing racial capitalism. And here I am still doing the work. And every day means that you have to think about what work you do, how you do it more meaningful. Because at the end of the day, we can't escape the broader structures, but we also can't deny that we participate in them.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to change them, there are many mechanisms towards changing them. And I'm not sure why some topics end up being the kinds where we just want to tear it down completely. Like I feel like some of the critiques of DEI are there, but we don't hear the same critiques necessarily of democracy all the time, right? It's like, oh, this is problematic. We're going to figure out how to make it better. Not like this is, something that we just need to get rid of.
Mm-hmm. That distracted me. But yes, I agree.
I mean, and I think, what, at the end of the day, what we're really kind of saying is that, how do anthropologists have or choose to fight this fight? I think academia, by and large, has had the tendency to stay neutral in times of national crisis and or kind of really push forth the things that are actually leading to its destruction. And we're at the stage right now where we have to just grow up. And
theme of this week, please just grow up. Deal with it.
The world is big and scary, and there are more problems than solutions. But what else are we here to do if not find more solutions? We are uniquely equipped to offer not just solutions to these kind of hyper complex problems, but we are uniquely qualified to really move these conversations, politics, everything in a direction that's sustainable and works for everyone.
Yeah, and I think I think something that both of you do very well is humanize them, really humanize these kinds of issues and conversations in ways that are really important for moving them forward, because when we start talking about big problems, sometimes they are structural. When we think about the structures that need to change and strategies, are very, very important. But again, holistically, like looking at both the issues and thinking about making sure that we really are representing the voices of people who are being impacted and who are doing the work and who are trying to make things a little better and problem solve is something that gets left out when we do these kinds of totalizing critiques. So this is good or this is bad or we need to get rid of it.
And also, it's just like not good work, right? To just think of things in terms of binaries. Like we've been challenging those for a long time as anthropologists, not thinking of things in binaries. And one of the things that you said earlier, Alex, that we've talked about before is that when you just apply that theory without actually looking at how complicated and heterogeneous and just nuanced the practice is, then you make up really reductionist and overly simplistic arguments that not only is it one, boring, but two, that don't actually represent the humans that we're actually studying. And I think to me, that's the biggest fatal error that we could do is not make things complicated because they are. And I think I used an analogy this when we went out for drinks a couple of days ago to say this in a more passionate way. um, but one of the things that I remember saying is it's like when you have theory that looks like a square, you want to put everything into it. You want to put triangles and circles into that square. And that's not what doing good work is. Not what it is to do good theory and not what it is to do good practice.
Yeah.
Especially in anthropology, where very much like the entire process is supposed to be iterative and it's supposed to change based on the data that you are continually taking in and collecting. And if you have new data, you have to change your square to a triangle or a circle rather than just trying to jam everything into the thing that you already think.
Absolutely. And both of you just kind of touched on this as well, but like the humanizing aspect of this, I think it is oftentimes ironic, excuse me, that we are the experts in what makes us human. And we often tend to uh, shred the humanity from the people and the situations and the cultures in which we study. And I think it's something that the keynote speaker for the AAAs touched on, Jason DeLeon, who talked a lot about why do we do this work? And he talked about the role of empathy in doing this work and how to, excuse me, how to really kind of make sure that that you're always going to have conflict in this work, that it's never going to be neat, and there's going to be just full of contradictions. But that's also what, to your point as well, Lucy, what makes this work interesting. It makes it not boring. It makes it work that grown-ups do.
Oh my God. Well, okay. I know we have a lot of bad things to say, but what are some like good ways to think about this? I think for me, the non-boring opposite of that is you get to be really creative.
Yeah.
Right. For me, when I was writing up and I was thinking about how I wanted to contribute both theoretically and practically, that meant that I explored literatures outside of anthropology. I went really far back to like Geertz, Prince and Peddlers. I really had to look everywhere to find what would fit. And I ended up melding a lot of things together that hadn't been melded before. And I did like that. And feminist anthropology actually really helped me to think about that. And we talk about this a lot, like standpoint theory. So I feel like ultimately the theory went in a better direction than it would have if I had been listening to reviewer number two for like several years in a row. But I think there's a lot of other really good things about it, including I think your network's getting bigger.
Mm-hmm. I think creativity is a good point to focus on, and I think that another thing that is happening. So we have talked also a lot about like this moment as a moment for creativity, because this is a moment when like things about DEI are kind of being challenged and they're burning down a little. So how can we come out of this with also uh, a creative way to get the messages, the good messages out? And we've done a poor job, all of us collectively, of explaining what DEI is and what it can do and how it impacts people in positive ways. And so now is also a time for creativity and thinking about how we get messages like that out to a much wider public, to a much broader audience, so that as we move forward, everyone understands that the work that is being done has a certain value to it as they critique it.
Yeah, I think that creativity aspect of it is something that I'm really drawn to, because DEI in and of itself is not going to save the world.
Right.
It is not going to solve all of our problems, anything like that, but creativity will.
Yeah.
The only way that I think that we can really move forward in an impactful way is if we get creative and innovative with how we're approaching and thinking about the problems and our potential solutions to them. And without that kind of um, full creative onslaught that you were talking about, by stepping outside of just traditional anthropological thought, when we're able to really just draw from the breadth of humanity, the breadth of knowledge that is available to us, in search of solutions that might have been right under our nose all along, then I think we're able to really do something just like cool.
And I think it's important to know that we're not going to solve everything tomorrow, right?
Mhm.
Like when we're saying, yes, DEI won't save us, DEI reproduces capitalism. We agree, like with all of these things, and yet we know we're not going to have a different alternative economic system tomorrow or in our lifetimes. So what can we do with the cards that we've been dealt? And I think part of that is the points we're making about creativity is also that we just become way more patient, more patient and more generous with people and with ourselves. And ultimately, I think that's a better way to live, when we take things one day at a time and take that pressure off of our shoulders.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to sell things. You're not going to sell things. Neither is Alex. Neither all of us three together. But we can take steps forward. And when we take steps forward, then we learn. And then hopefully the people that come after us, they keep moving us forward. And I think ultimately that's a really positive thing.
Yeah. And the roof is on fire right now. Things are crazy, but like what I think I've learned through this and talking with other anthropologists and thinkers and creatives is that the point of this is just to like keep living too.
Yeah.
Like there's still so much to live for. This is the reason why we do this work. And yes, we're not going to completely replace harmful systems and structures tomorrow. But we can still find enjoyment in how we're connecting with each other.
Yeah. And I love that. And I will also point out that you gave a beautiful definition of the value of diversity and simply talking about how we should approach it. And to your point, Missy, we've been, as we're talking to people about all of these things and trying to think about how to explain it to them, that kind of incremental focus is, I keep using the metaphor of like, of course we want the whole pie, right? We always want the whole pie, but it's okay if you just have a little sliver right now and take one little problem and start moving towards creative solutions. Or maybe that one little sliver is just having some joy today. But doing something that is small, that moves you forward and moves the system forward towards something new, is all that you need to do, not change the entire system tomorrow, because that's just too much.
And I think another thing that came up in the conversations when we think about all the critiques against DEI and how it was, an object of neoliberalism, which is true. But I think when we create those totalizing narratives, we ended up taking DEI for granted. we're like, oh, DEI is here. It was brought to you by capitalism. As if like we were given this thing and now it's going to be here forever. And something that a lot of people are grappling with is, oh, wait, we took it for granted and now we want it back. It was bad, but can we still have that?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the struggle, right? Is when you're taking steps forward, you can also be taking steps back and recognizing that it's all a process and a practice. And people are struggling every day to keep the little things that we have gained historically. And we should not be complacent. And that's why it's important to do both. It's important to keep critiquing and keep practicing.
Yeah, DEI is a very imperfect practice. And it's supposed to be, because we're dealing with humans who are complex and complicated and weird and wonderful and all of those different things. And, if it was a perfect practice, then I feel like we almost wouldn't have a need for it at all. It is here to solve a bevy of different problems. And, again, the point of critique is to, make it better. And when we kind of just look at it as just like a total failure, which of course it is not, then we're kind of cutting it off at the knees when it was just starting to grow.
Too many body metaphors.
No way. I actually would love to end with that one.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everyone. Stay tuned for more anecdotes from the triple A's, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. See you
Bye.
next time. Bye.